Good evening, everyone. I'd like to call the City of Mount Vernon City Council meeting for October 28, 2020 to order. The time is now 6 o'clock. We will start out with a Pledge of Allegiance, and our staff is going to put up a flag for us so that we can do that appropriately. So I'm going to hope that's up unless staff can give me a little wave of their hand since we can't see it. All right, so we'll just begin then. If you want to join me, I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you so much. All right, we'll proceed with our roll call of council members. Again, I'll go slowly for our council to be able to unmute. So Council Member Gary Molinar.
Here.
Council Member Melissa Beaton.
Here.
Council Member Mark Hulst.
Here.
Council Member Mary Hudson.
Here.
Council Member Iris Carillas.
Here.
Council Member Richard Boxman.
Here.
All right, thank you. Under our consent agenda tonight, we have 4 items. There's the approval of the October 7 study session minutes, October 14 council meeting minutes, October 20 payroll checks and transfers, and the October 28 claims.
I will move for approval of our consent agenda.
Second.
Thank you. A motion by Mary and a second by Melissa. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Are there any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Under reports tonight, we have our standing item of the review of emails from the public, and those are public comments sent via email to the council at mountvernon.gov. And Peter Donovan will read our emails this week.
Thank you, Mayor. Yeah, again, for the public that's listening at home, if you wanted to address City Council in future meetings, this is the way that we can do it while we're digital. So while we're on Zoom, we ask that you would send all of your comments by email to council@mountvernon.gov. We have just one email from the public this meeting, and this email comes from Scott Correa of Mount Vernon, Washington. And prior to reading Mr. Correa's letter, I wanted to point out to council and to our live listening audience and families at home that Mr. Correa's letter does contain some language that some may consider to be crass. Mr. Scott Correa writes, "Councilmen, there is an old saying, people have always lived outside the city gates. The lack of affordable housing in Mount Vernon and the Skagit Valley is real. It's been with us for years and needs to be addressed. How we as a city do that during a pandemic is to make solid plans and put into place policies supporting the sustainability of affordable housing. My feeling is that we as a city are the wrong organization to be landlords. Others do that so much better than we do. Our place is to create jobs. Affordable housing only works when people can afford it. Unless you create the jobs necessary for affordable housing to work, the resources we expend on the creation of housing units will be for nothing. Our city should focus on business development. It's time to think of extending fiber to the South Mount Vernon commercial area and do what we can to remove roadblocks to locating there. The south end of town can be so much better than a dumping grounds for titty bars, marijuana shops, and the jail. It should be the future of job creation in the city. Market it that way and recruit businesses to move here. Cut deals, sell our city as a great place to move, and make it economically sound for them to come here. Mount Vernon can do this, and in fact, has to do this to make affordable housing sustainable. If we as a city cannot make Mount Vernon the superior choice for business location or relocation, we will never beat the sustainability problem of affordable housing. Thank you for your time. Scott Correa.
Thank you, Peter. Moving on to item B, we have our department updates. And first up is our finance department update, and that's our finance director, Doug Pulaski. Doug. Trying to find him on my screen. There he is.
I am here. All right. Just share my screen there. Does everybody see that? All right. So today I'm just for a finance update. I'm just gonna. I know the agenda is pretty long, so I'm just gonna give an update on where our revenues are for 2020, so we can kind of talk about that. Let's see here. There we go. Okay, so first of all, our sales tax through October, we actually just received our sales tax for October today, and so we got $694,000, and which is a little higher, quite about $180,000 higher than what we anticipated to collect this month. I did put in your council packet, or not in your packet, excuse me, in your if you look at your council finance 2020. I have the whole sales tax portfolio in there as far as breaking it down by the different categories and stuff, so you can see a lot more detail of where this is. So just looking at this graph right now, total sales so far for this year, $6.4 million. You know, that we're about right where we were last year at this time. We were also about just under 6.5 million last year too. So as you can see there in the dark green line, or the heavy green line there, you know, we were shooting up there. We're starting to come down a little bit, and then for the last 2 months of this year, for November and December, I'm anticipating those numbers to be lower too. So, but anyway, this was good news for this month. And again, just another graphical view for the sales tax. We collected $694,000 this month, which was about $5,000 higher than last year, the same month. And so a total of $6.4 million. We're about 55,000 below what we expected we should be at if we were going to collect the full $7.8 million this year. And so we're right where we anticipated and being, just a bit lower. So that's all good there. As far as property tax goes, we collected $85,000 this month. It's about 23,000 less than we did last year in October. But still, as you can see here, we're right at. Before I go on, just a question: can you guys see my? Okay, I just wanted to make sure as I'm talking here, if you guys know what I'm cursor, thank you, that you know what I'm talking about here. Okay, so we're exactly where we need to be. We're $4,000 higher than what budgetarily what we were saying, so we should be receiving our full property tax revenue from that. Remember, this number is property tax from the general fund only. And then ambulance services. I know I had promised to share this more readily, so I am today, especially since Chief Bryce is on. This month we collected $58,000. You can see here, this is through October 23rd. That was the last that I had anything in there. So there might be more coming in there. We started out, because this year was kind of a little unusual yet, because we didn't have really comparing it to a full year from last year. So looking at right now, we're sitting at about just a little over $1 million, $1,060,000. We had budgeted at 1.6. The way numbers are coming now, and how we need to handle those last few months of accruals, I think we're going to be coming in really close to about 1.5 million. So, we're going to be really close to what that number was going to look at. So I'll keep this one updated and as it's coming in. And then TBD, again, we brought in $163,000. That's about 2,000 less than, or more than what we brought in last year at this time. We're at 1.5 million. The way we're looking here right now, we're about $13,000 over of we're anticipated. And if this keeps up, we should reach our $1.8 million for TBD. So good for our transportation projects. And then REIT 1 and 2, for this month, we collected $208,000, which is, I think we've only been in history about two other times we collected more than this. So had a really good month with real estate excise tax. Again, this is showing REIT 1 and 2. So we collected so far $1.3 million. We had budgeted 1.4. And then, but we had, in our projections when we were talking about where we were going to be at the end of the year, we did project this one at 1.5. So again, a really good month and really good news for a lot of our projects, capital projects. And then Lyft. Lyft this month we collected just under $80,000 again, and so we're at 539,000. And I know we're only supposed to collect 500. Remember, this is the Lyft tax that we use that goes to our fund for the Mount Vernon Library Commons project. And anyway, but they're on different fiscal years than us. So, but as you can see down here, in March is when they ended their fiscal year where they reached $500,000. So they quit collecting it. And then in July was their new beginning. They started again. So we'll still keep seeing some of these numbers here until we reach, a bit close to the $100,000 for their years. So anyways, a little complicated there, but we're right where we should be going there. And, oh, yes.
Could you put that slide back up? You got a note there. It says there's an annual $500,000 requirement match from REIT 1.
Yes.
Is that, I know when the mayor's presented the Commons project, she's talked about utilizing some money from REIT. Is that what we're talking about there?
Yes, it is. Yeah, there's a $500,000 match the city has to make for these lifts funds. So, yeah, that's where we're coming. And this has been budgeted this year. It's been budgeted next year too. And we've been forecasting that throughout when looking at the CIP. That number's in there. So,
okay, thank you.
And with that, that's all I have for as far as finance update. Unless anybody has any questions.
Any questions for Doug? Okay, great. Thank you, Doug. Another department update is our Parks and Enrichment Services. And so Director Jennifer Berner is going to take us through an update of her department. Jennifer.
Great, thank you. Good evening, Council. Let me do my share the screen here. And again, just trying to keep it fairly short this evening since we know we have a long agenda. Okay, everybody able to see? Okay, great. All right, let me reduce that. Okay. So this is the year for artwork for us. We are excited to also bring into the city a new piece of artwork. It's called The Window, and it is a piece that was partnered with the Skagit Valley College Weld Club. As you can see, it kind of depicts our Skagit Valley there with the big, huge sunshine, the mountain in the background, and our robust river running through it. This is a plexiglass, even though it looks like stained glass, it's plexiglass. And then it's welded with your steel in between. And so the Arts Commission has accepted this piece, and we are going to be installing it in Hillcrest to kind of keep in line with the theme of developing kind of a sculpture walk through Hillcrest area. So we were real resident to make sure that we had a spot that was real sunny so it would reflect the stained glass feeling really well. And I think we found that with a place right kind of by the parking lot and the lodge and that one of the planters right there. And so the Arts Commission has said yes to that location, and we should be looking at trying to get it installed sometime here in November. Little Mountain Bike Skills Course. So this is probably something you guys have all heard about for many years, and it's actually happening. And we are at a point where we could feasibly open the lower section possibly this fall or winter. I went out a couple weeks ago, went on a little hike. So this is our new lower parking lot right here. Are you guys able to see the cursor? Let's see. This is the new lower parking lot here. There's a trail right at the entrance to that. If you head up the hill and then cut into the right, and this is the easy trail, which is your green line. And then there's a more difficult trail over here on the dark line and with the blue squares on it. So if you're a skier, that probably relates to simple kind of trail navigation there for you. These are the ones that we're looking at possibly getting open sometime here in November. Their workforces are back out working and getting real close to be able to open those up. We've come up with some signage. So we've worked with WCIA to make sure we have proper signage that's going to go up to let people know how to utilize the park. And then you can see a real difference here between your easy trail, these two photos here, and then your little more intermediate trails where you've got some bumps and rolls to go through. So it's really designed for family friendly. Multiple kinds of bike riders can use it. I think it's a real user-friendly course. We're working on getting some signage as well to kind of direct people which ways to go. We're putting up more temporary signage right now, and then there'll be more permanent signage as we finish up the park. We also wanted to let you know we're putting play it safe signs, and it says nature is open. And we're using those out on our trails. So those are addition to our other signs that we have out. We're getting more of them out for the trail use. Just reminding folks we're still in a pandemic and the best way for them to utilize the parks during this time frame. Any questions on the bike skills course? I know I'm throwing a lot at you real quickly. Okay. Also wanted to kind of update you on what our Parks Division is up to. A lot of times people might think this is a slower time of year for the Parks Department because you don't see us out on the mowers. But if you look up in the trees, you'll see us up there. We are doing a lot of tree maintenance this time of year. And so some of the things that we maintain in the trees, obviously we have the trees in the city parks. We have maintained the trees in the downtown corridors. So there's about 362 of those trees that we prune annually to our ANSI A300 standard. So that's a standard that we utilize to go in and make sure when we are doing our pruning that we're doing it to the standards that manage risk, manage health, develop the structure of the tree, provide clearance that's needed for the tree, manage the size and the shape, improve the aesthetics of it. And we manage also to make sure that its wildlife habitat is able to survive in the trees as well. So we're looking at all of those things when we're looking at pruning it. It's not just getting out there and hacking with some pruning shears. There's a real science to making sure you prune it in a way that it is healthy for the tree. We also look at trees in the right of ways. So we'll get a lot of calls from concerned citizens this time of year for us to come out and take a look at the trees in the right of ways and give recommendations if they are looking to take the tree out or if they're looking to prune it in some way. We will give some recommendations on how to move forward with that. So just as kind of a little catch-all for the last couple of weeks, we had over 30 tree issues that came up that staff was dealing with. 11 of those were in the right of way, 13 were in our parks, and 6 of them were in the city maintained tree strips that we do. So it's a very busy time. And this is our staff member up here in our bucket truck that out doing the tree work. We also do like the tree wells here. You can see them. We go through this time of year and make sure the tree wells are all looking good, get the weeds out of there and get it all prepped for winter. So we have any questions?
Any questions for Jennifer? Okay.
Perfect. Well, thank you.
Okay. Again, just because of the way we're structured, if you have any questions things that weren't covered, feel free to reach out to the director and they'll get you the information you need. So thank you. All right, item C tonight is any council member comments. Any council member comments tonight?
I've got one quick comment.
Sure, go ahead, Melissa.
I just wanted to remind our small businesses, I was on the eDask website, and the deadline to submit for CARES funding is this Friday. And it's a pretty, the timeline's a pretty quick turnaround. They're hoping to have a decision by November 9th. So you can't be awarded any money if you don't apply. So I would encourage everyone to please apply.
Awesome. All right, any other council member comments tonight? Okay, we'll move on. Under mayor's report, I'm going to actually turn the mayor's report time over to your mayor pro tem, which is Melissa Beaton, and met yesterday, was it yesterday or the day before? Sorry, yesterday. With council members Beaton and Carillas to talk about a process for filling our vacancy. So I'm gonna go ahead and turn it over to Melissa.
Thank you, Mayor. And I think she's going to share the PowerPoint that she created that will kind of guide us through this process real quick. Just as a reminder, I just want to make sure I took myself off of mute. Just as a reminder, we went through this process a couple years ago, and with the resignation of Councilmember Moberg, we need to go through this process again. So just kind of a review, the qualifications, there needs to be a registered voter in Ward 1. That's the ward that Aaron was representing. And then also the residency, it must be a resident for a minimum of at least 1 year in the city. The mayor and her staff are working diligently to put together a packet. The application is about 2 or 3 pages with some general information about the applicant. There are 3 questions and references that need to be provided. You know, as elected officials, we have to fill out that F1. And so we discussed, you know, do we have a potential applicant fill out an F1? And so Peter Donovan did reach out to, I think it was MRSC and, no, excuse me, the PDC. And as you can imagine, they're very busy right now with a current election. And so maybe something we should talk about is having them fill one of these out in paper format. The packet will also include the salary, city code, the council member role for the AWC, and a copy of the ward map. So here is the draft application with the 3 questions that we are proposing for discussion. The first one is, what skills, knowledge, and approach would you bring to the Mount Vernon City Council? Second question is, what is your understanding of the role of City Council in the successful governance of the City of Mount Vernon? And 3, this is a new question. We thought we would put it out there. Is there anything in your background that would attract heightened scrutiny if undisclosed and later discovered? And then I think so the process is the application. We were looking at keeping it open for a minimum of 2 weeks, and then council will review the applications. We will then have interviews and then the appointment and swearing in and orientation. One of the things I was really hoping was that we would be able to go through this process you know, and able to do it in person and socially distance with masks, and with the governor's order still in effect through November 9th, we are not at this point in time going to be able to do that. But who knows, maybe something will change come November 9th. But we should probably look at Zoom. So with that, here's the potential timeline here. So we were looking at publishing it November 9th for 2 weeks, and then come back on November 23rd. That's when the process closes. We could discuss on December 9th in executive session to review the applicants. Let's see, December 16th, interviews, and depending on what the governor's, there's likely the Zoom again. And then we could vote immediately on December 16th and then swear a council member in. So there's our process, and open for discussion on any questions or anything like that that my fellow council members have.
So I guess the only question I'd have is, we have the potential for another vacancy. Have we given consideration, if that vacancy arises, that we do both appointments at the same time?
Great question, Mark. We did talk about it, and I think we came to the consensus that obviously if we could do this at the same time, it would probably be the most efficient process, and to get both of them on board at the same time. And with the outline that's laid out right now, that is a possibility. Now, keep in mind that the council member Hudson's position, that the election would not be certified until the end of November. And so, we have that to look at, we have that to consider. So I suppose the question is, if it comes to that, do we want to wait for both positions?
And statutorily, you have till January 5th to fill Councilmember Moberg. So if you choose to delay and do it, a different timeline, you have plenty of time to do that.
I think after the election next Tuesday, we'll have a pretty good idea, and I think we make a decision at that point on whether we want to do both appointments at the same time, or whether there'll be a need to do that. So I think we can play that part by ear a little bit.
Absolutely. I think what we're looking at is, tonight it was just to put the information out there so that everybody becomes familiar with the process. We can ruminate on it through next Wednesday, and then we can discuss it again next Wednesday at our study session.
Yep.
With that, any other questions? All righty, I'll turn it back over to the mayor. Thank you, Mayor.
Excellent. Thank you so much. We will, as Councilmember Beaton indicated, we will have this as an agenda item next Wednesday. So in your packets, you can expect to find the draft application and the draft packet that would be available to any applicants, and also the PowerPoint, so that you just have all the information to think about before next week. So awesome, thank you. All right, item E tonight is any council committee agenda requests. All right, seeing none, we'll go ahead and move on to new business. So under new business tonight, we have our public hearing regarding the 2021 through 2026 capital improvements plan. And Peter Donovan is going to present this to you. Peter.
Thank you, Mayor, and hello again, Council. I can't believe it's already CIP time. It seems like we were just doing this, but here we are again. So we are going to present the CIP to you tonight. Before we do that, we're just going to revisit and catch everyone up on what a CIP is. So let's talk about what it is. This is a planning document that we create and we update each year. And this shows us all the capital projects that are $10,000 or more that we think that we're going to need in the next 6 years. So the question of why do we do this? Why do we create a CIP? The short answer is because we have to by law. But also we always say that we'd like to think that this is something that we would do anyway, because this is just good business practice to plan this out, and it's good government to be this transparent about what our needs are and how we plan to fund those needs. Also, this document fits in with other documents that City Council is familiar with. One of those is the city's 20-year comprehensive plan, which is our large overarching plan for how the city is going to handle its projected growth as we go from being a city of 35,000 to maybe 45,000 in 20 years or so. So that comprehensive plan, that's what gives us kind of our high-level overview. but it has a lot of smaller elements to it that allow us to kind of focus in on particular areas. What is our housing going to be like over the next 20 years? What about our schools, our parks, our roads and infrastructures? So we take those elements and we dial in even further with the CIP, and we say, okay, now in the next 6 years, what bigger ticket items that support our comprehensive plan that are $10,000 or more are going to need to be in place? And where are those items going to be located? And then what revenue sources are we going to need to fund those? So staff gets together in May of every year. Each department takes a close look and reassesses what they think they're going to need to continue to move the city in the direction of realizing its comprehensive plan. The mayor collaborates with staff and approves the annual CIP plan. The State Department of Commerce reviews and approves the plan. The City Planning Commission weighs in and approves the plan. The public is invited to weigh in. And then finally tonight, now that all of that has already happened, it's being delivered to City Council for final approval after we have invited and invite the public to weigh in one more time. So this is a very collaborative and open process. As I mentioned, each department looks ahead and assesses what's needed and the costs that are going to be associated with those needs. So here's a look at a summary of each department's needs, as well as the total monetary assessed need of this year's updated 6-year capital improvement plan, which totals $183,951,171. Now, again, these are predicted needs and not necessarily funded needs. So not all the items in a city CIP are going to be funded. There are 86 projects in this year's CIP. 38 of those projects have funding behind them, and they're going to be moving forward in the next year or so. And 48 projects are still waiting for funding. And that's normal for any CIP to have some projects that have funding sources already connected to them, and then some projects that are waiting for funding. And in fact, there are a lot of times where potential and pending funding sources like grants are going to be required. They're going to require that a project be listed in the city CIP prior to the city being awarded that funding. So we need to demonstrate that these projects are needed, they're anticipated, they're planned out, and they're in our CIP before some funding sources can be allocated toward them. So here are some possible funding sources or sources for that funding. You can see that there are a number of ways that projects can get money, and it of course can include a mix of any number of those sources. So we are going to dive in now to just the sections of and the departments of the city, and we're going to hear from some of our directors and managers in each department as they share their department's top 2 priorities. The first step is going to be the Mount Vernon Fire Department, and this year Fire has identified 7 projects that are needed in the next 6 years. Those 7 projects total $33.5 million, and here to talk about his department's top 2 priority projects is Fire Chief Brian Bryce. Chief Bryce.
Thank you, Peter, and Mayor and Council, good evening. Coming forward tonight with our top 2 priorities, again, I think we're familiar with this. We've brought this forward in the past. It's the construction of our facilities. When we say facilities, in this case, we're talking about Fire Station 1. Over the last 18 months, we've been doing some studies. We've done a needs assessment for our fire facilities throughout the city, identifying that Fire Station 1, because of its age, being built in 1964, the codes that were used at that time, the spacing, how we deployed, how many calls of service we had at that time. The city has simply outgrown that facility, and we're not able to keep up with the current standards and needs. A simple example of that is the need for, now that we're doing EMS transport, to be able to place that ambulance down there and house the personnel. The need for the ladder truck that cannot fit in there because of the design of the station at the time, and now the sizing of the vehicles. In addition, again, I think one of the big things that's become very evident, not that we didn't know it before, but with COVID and this recent pandemic, is how do we ensure the health and safety of our firefighters? We've talked before about exhaust systems we've talked about, decontamination areas and so forth. But this pandemic has brought forward, I think, something new. I'll have Peter go to the next slide as well when we talk about Station 3 as well. There's an addition there, but we're also talking about the spacing for the office and the work the firefighters are doing. Currently, they're having to wear masks. They're in very close quarters with each other. That only adds to the concern about spreading of currently this pandemic of COVID. But if we take a step past today and we look forward, there's still going to be colds, flus, other illnesses that could be going on that we want to keep our health and safety of our firefighters as best we can. And so by not having adequate space for some of that other working areas, I think we add to that. Is it the overarching problem? No. I think as you can see from these last photos here at Station 3, it's the need for the apparatus-based space. It's for need for adequate sleeping space here at Fire Station 3 as well, so we can house the personnel. And then when we get to the right staffing levels of getting enough personnel on all of our fire engines and apparatus, we simply cannot house all of the firefighters. When we're at full staffing right now, we are short beds within the collective of all of our fire stations, stations 1, 2, and 3. I know this is just about stations 1 and 3, but station 2 falls into that category. But again, those are our two top priorities. I'm happy to answer any questions that the council may have regarding them.
Any questions? Okay, we'll move along. Go ahead, Peter.
Thank you, Chief Bryce. Our general facilities falls under and into the very capable hands of our Development Services Department and Director Chris Phillips. He has identified 4 total projects in this year's CIP, 14.3 million, and he's going to talk with us tonight about his top 2 general facilities priorities. Chris.
Thank you so much, Peter. You can go to the next slide. The 2 projects that we, or 2 main projects we have, number 1 has not changed since I've been here, is the infrastructure improvements. These projects range in scope from HVAC equipment, facility infrastructure, could be emergency generators, and those are throughout every single department within the city. Again, roofing projects come into this, energy efficiency programs and projects all contribite to this. Next slide. And then the next one is just working with our Public Works shop facility. Again, this is a structure that was built many years ago, and this is definitely in need of some work. I just was over there this afternoon with our an intern from the International City Managers Association, walking through and looking at where Gary and Jason and our solid waste crew work, and just had a good walk through there. So this space as well needs some assistance when it comes to housing things for our public works crew. And with that, pending any of your questions you might have.
All right, any questions?
Thank you.
All right, thanks, Chris.
I have a question. So I think we've talked before about there's a bigger vision here. It's going to take several years to get it done. There's been quite a bit of planning already that's laid out the footprints. So that's what is on the screen now. My understanding is that you wanted to move forward with with Gary's piece of the shop this year and sort of extend that and add some, quality but quick construction to get those folks inside and provide the services they need. Is that accurate?
That's accurate. So it's proven to be quite a challenge with flood issues and things like that. And so ESCO's working diligently on it. In the meantime, though, I've asked ESCO to take a look at, is there a way to contract out some of the work that may have to occur with folks sitting outside? And then so when we're ready to bring those solutions forward, we'll definitely bring it forward to City Council.
I was just trying to square up, if we're going to be able to build something this year, although now I'm hearing that may not be possible. How does the budget that's presented line up with that? So you show 200,000 for 2021 for planning and design, and then the bulk of construction funding would be in 22 and 23. So is that the current plan? There's no way that we would move to construction this year for that piece?
It all depends on the solution. So if we can, I will come to council and ask you to move as quickly as we can on that. Doug has probably some answers on, we've been tucking away funding in a line item for the last, I think, couple of years, and then have outlined how the utilities would, make up and pay for it as well. So we've got a way to pay for it. It's just making sure that we're presenting the correct solution.
Clearly been thinking about it and have a plan to get us there. So that's great. I didn't know if it needed to show construction in 2021, even if then you're more flexible to, if you didn't do it, that's fine. But if it's not in here, you can't do it without amending the CIP. I know it's mostly a budget question and it's generally in the CIP. So that's my question. How accurate does it need to be?
I think that the CIP is a planning document. So if we are able to move forward on things that just because that it's a certain assigned, dates in the planning document doesn't preclude us from doing things quicker. Does that answer your question?
It answers my question.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay.
Other general facilities questions? Okay, we will move on to information services, where Kim Kleppe, the director, has listed a need for virtual servers, and he would probably want me to point out that he is so efficiently running his department that these servers have been purchased and we're moving forward on these. So unless there are questions specifically about servers or for Kim Kleppe, I would move on. Council, are there questions on this item?
This is purchased and in place right now, and we're actually migrating all our current servers over to it, roughly around 54, 55 servers, and our primary storage for servers. Pretty, aren't they?
So pretty. Thanks for the pictures, Kim. All right.
I'll anticipate a question maybe, Peter, from council. So when we put together the CIP and it's sent off to Commerce, this is kind of the very end of the process. We didn't have the allocation of the CARES fund to actually complete the project. So that's why you're kind of seeing, you're like, why are we seeing this? Is because we have to present what was presented to Department of Commerce. Okay.
All right. The library has 3 projects listed, 38 million, and Mr. Isaac Huffman is going to talk to you about his top 2 priorities. Are you there, Isaac, and unmuted?
I am indeed.
Excellent.
All right, so the first project, well, we call this project the Library Commons project, and we talked earlier about the LIFT funding that's available for this project. Our goal, of course, is to create a beautiful new library, community center, and parking garage in downtown, and we're moving forward on this project. And the next project is the replacement of the library furniture. In 2021, we anticipate the next phase of the furniture to be the replacement of the front desk. We will need to do that to meet COVID standards, and that's basically what that project will entail next year.
Great, thanks. Questions for Isaac? All right, moving on to parks with 19 projects in this year's CIP at 11.3 million. Parks Director Jennifer Berner is going to share about the top 2 parks priorities. If she is unmuted and ready, I'll turn it over to Jennifer.
Okay, so with Little Mountain improvements, we're looking there with opening of the new lower parking lot. We want to provide a restroom to park visitors using the lower parking lot, which is our largest parking lot at the Little Mountain Park there. So that's basically what that project is. We do have some additional funding that we received from lodging tax, And our Parks Foundation has said that they have some money possibly to donate towards this project as well. So hopefully it's something we will be able to get off the ground in 2021 with the different partners. The other piece is our playground development and improvements. The focus of this is looking at inclusion and ADA features to update our current playgrounds. So that could mean looking at things like pathways to get to playgrounds, so that people who have a walker or wheelchair or something can get to where they need to go, ramps to access different pieces of equipment, maybe a new piece of equipment, just looking at how we can make our playgrounds more inclusive.
All right, questions for Jennifer on the parks items?
Yeah, I have one question. I just wanted to make sure I had this right in my mind. The restroom facility that you're talking about is the same style that we have down at Lions Park, is that correct?
It's actually the same that we have, kind of similar to, it's one of those pit toilets, like what we have up at the top of Little Mountain.
Gotcha.
But yeah, it will be a similar concrete type of structure.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
I wanted to start with thanking you for the, looking at everything we do with that that lens of inclusion. We've heard some presentations at my Kiwanis recently about that, and so it's great to know that you're ahead of the curve, or at least thinking about that all the time. Just a quick question: is all the 25th Street playground funding in place from last year, and that's all there, and so that'll get done in coming months, I assume?
Yes, pieces of it, have been purchased. The main playground equipment has been purchased. Some of the things that we're looking at is what we're going to be able to do with the installation. And so it'll be a basic installation with just, the curb cuts around the playground, or we'll be able to do some pathways. And we're working through some of that with Doug to figure out where we're sitting at funding wise as we close out this year. But we will get that project up and operational. It's just to what extent will it look like when it's done? Will it have pathways and stuff, or will that be something that we have to come back and add?
Mm-hmm. And then this CIP provides some capacity to do that.
Correct.
Well, you've certainly done a fantastic job at Little Mountain, piecing it together and getting it done. So I'm sure 25th will look fantastic as well. So thank you for all your effort.
Okay, moving on. Police Chief Chris Kamek is going to come on. He spent quite some time trying to select which of his 2 projects he would list as his top 2 priorities. Chief Kamek, are you on and unmuted?
Yes, I am. Thank you, Peter. Great introduction. I feel a little guilty. Everybody else had big buildings. The 2 projects that we have going are projects that have been in work, and I feel a little bit bad because I'm taking some of the credit that really belongs to Kim Kleppe with Information Services. But the traffic safety camera project has been ongoing for us for a while. This is prioritizing public camera systems in critical facilities like the police department, city hall, parks department, our public trails, our walkways. And then we work with them on identifying kind of high service areas, traffic congestion areas, roadways, and things like that. So just for example, last year when I was here, I think we had 138 camera views set up, and talking with Kim earlier today, we're at 277 now. So we got a robust system that's being built out, and it really leverages our policing capabilities. So we see continuing that and growing that out in the coming years, I should say. And the next one is just a replacement of a multi-purpose vehicle. This is a placeholder item for us. We don't have a vehicle identified and funded right now. Our previous one was 35 years old, and we retired it a couple of years ago. This is intended to be a multi-purpose vehicle that we can use really for critical incidents. Vehicle of 32 to 36 foot size with communication capabilities, seating areas, and an ability to coordinate with other agencies during critical incidents. So we leave this in the CIP. So as we identify really what hopefully is a good deal for us because these can be very expensive, purchase new, that we can put a package together that meets our needs and as well as the costs involved.
All right, thanks, Chief. Any questions about the police items?
Yeah, I had a question for Chief Kamek on this multi-purpose vehicle. How does this vehicle differ from the one we purchased a couple of years ago? Mobile Command or whatever the vehicle was we purchased a couple of years ago.
Yeah, that's a great question. The one that we purchased a couple of years ago replaced our crisis negotiator vehicle that we gotten from Cedar Woolley Police Department, which was an ambulance. So its primary function is in a tactical incident is to house our crisis negotiators and our tactical element. The difference with this one would be more along the lines of the management group at these critical incidents, which serves a completely different function. And currently we do that out of our vehicles that we have individually, which is not.
I think we have a frozen police chief.
Okay, I was wondering if that was my screen. Chief Kamek? All right. If and when he comes back, can we finish that question? Is that all right?
Absolutely. I think he's
all right.
Pretty much clarified the difference in the need.
Okay. Well, we will move on and come back if we need to. Moving on to surface water and the 16 projects there at 6.6 million. And I believe, Esco, are you going to take this one, or is someone else going to talk about your top two priorities?
I'll go ahead and handle the
okay,
top
great.
two in Public Works. In our stormwater utility, we always like to emphasize with all this capital that we maintain is, taking care of what you already own. So we've got over 100 miles of pipes. So we have a nice program that go out and video the lines and identify which ones are in bad enough condition where they need to either be replaced or restored. And it turns out we can do these linings of the pipes with this kind of polymer plastic type material that ends up restoring the life for, basically decades and decades of life. And it also restores, it doesn't take away any capacity either because the material is so slick. So this lining program, we've been doing it for quite some time. And that's, we shoot for about $200,000 a year in stormwater. Then our second priority in stormwater this year is to go along with the Freeway Drive transportation project that we're working on between Cameron Way and College Way, which will have some stormwater work that needs to be done on the west side of the road. So there's approximately $200,000 worth of work, and that's a priority because we're working on that project, the design of it right now as we speak.
Great. Surface water questions for Esco. We will move on to transportation.
Esco, does that mean just better ditches? I'm sure it's more complicated than that, but
no. Well, we should have pipe system there. The street project, which is all mentioned in transportation, has sidewalks, curbs, and gutters. So that'll be tight pipe, some of it. Okay. I mean, I don't know all the details of whether any of it will be ditched, but most of it is going to be just hard piped.
Mm-hmm. And it's integrated with the road yep. piece too. Yep. That makes sense. Thank you.
You bet.
Anyone else? Okay, to transportation and the 25 projects, 69.7 million. And Esco, what can you tell us about these?
Well, again, emphasizing basic maintenance, taking care of we got 130 miles of streets, about 280 give or take lane miles. So that's a lot of pavement, and we need to stay on top of it with fixing those surfaces, primarily with overlays. So that's the meat of what this program is. It also includes, when we overlay a street, we also have to upgrade all of the ADA ramps that aren't up to current standards. So that's part of it as well. And I just mentioning about that sorry about that. That's also fundamental work that's paid for under the Transportation Benefit District that the voters passed some years ago. Our second priority is a work in progress right now. We're working on the design that has been funded. Freeway Drive, again, that's widening that the existing road there up to 41 feet. We'll construct a sidewalk on the west side. We're going to add some lighting. And then, of course, we have drainage that goes with it as well. That project, we have federal funds that will mature in 2023, but we work regionally with those, and it looks like we'll probably be able to build that next year and actually move ahead in line because we're going to be ready for it. I think the way it's playing out with our other partners, I think we'll be able to build that next year.
Questions about the Freeway Drive improvements or any other transportation items in this year's CIP?
This is Richard again. I'm just wondering, could you give us an overview or an update of the ogue laventure improvements CIP?
Yeah, the adding that'll be like a signalization of that intersection, I believe. Yeah. Yeah.
So you have 222,000 in planning and design for this year and 100,000 other, and then show that funding is currently available to get you to that 322,000. So what is going to happen this year?
I can answer that if you want, Ms. Bill.
Yeah. Will you handle that, please?
Sure. So what we've done is we've applied for a TIB grant this year. That TIB grant, the
Transportation Improvement Board.
Transportation Improvement Board. Those projects the announcement of what projects were funded and which weren't is going to be the week before Thanksgiving is when the list comes out. So cross your fingers, hopefully we're on that list. Assuming we get TIB funding, then we will move forward immediately with advertising for an engineering firm for design for that signal. And approximately 1 year to design it, and the plan is to construct it in 2022.
Thank you.
That discussion was the ogue and laventure intersection. Sorry, Esco, go ahead.
No, that's our top 2 projects in transportation.
All right.
A big item.
Do you want to talk about wastewater now as well?
Yeah, I'll go ahead and mention the top 2 priorities in our wastewater utility. One of them is the project that the council's already approved, which, these facilities were built in the 70s, updated in the 80s. So, back then we were a much smaller town, 17,000 population. Now we're up to 36,000. So, this, like I say, we're building this project as I speak. So that's going to go on several months. We won't get it done completely until middle of next year. So that's a top priority. And then also similar to what I said about stormwater, we have the same kind of program that actually this is where we started doing this stuff, was in our wastewater system, where we have, again, more than 130 miles of pipes, and we rigorously go out and video the lines and identify those. And you have a nice before and after picture here of how bad some of these pipes look and then what they look like, how smooth and solid they are after. So we have enough work there to do, our target is $1 million a year for at least the next 6 years. There's plenty of work we've already identified to at least go that long. And also in that program, I noticed our picture of the manholes. I forgot to mention, we also grout some of the manholes. Anyway, basic maintenance, really good program. And that's our top 2 priorities in wastewater.
Questions about wastewater for ESCO? ESCO, we put you to work here the last several items. Thank you. And thank you to all the directors. That is our 2021 to 2026 updated capital improvement plan overview. Again, this year's plan has been reviewed by Mayor Boudreau and city staff, Washington State Department of Commerce, Mount Vernon City Planning Commission, and the public, and all have approved and recommended that City Council also approve this plan. Now, normally we would hold a public hearing right now, and we have actually offered that option to the public to comment on this year's CIP. the way that we provided for the public to do that was to write in comments or to let us know if they wanted to come on and comment publicly. We received no response from that call. So at this time, staff would like to recommend council approval or questions about this year's CIP.
I think at this point, I'll see if there's any questions. I think I will go ahead before I open the public hearing, just for the record indicating there is no one, but any questions for council before we do that? Okay, with that, I'll open the public hearing regarding the 2021 to 2026 capital improvements plan. As Peter Donovan had indicated, there's clear direction in our published agenda on how to participate in this public hearing. And we received no response, so I'll go ahead and close the public hearing. All right.
I believe there were no surprises in this lovely 7,000-page book that you gave us. So I personally would like to move approval of ordinance 3814.
Second.
All right, so it's a motion by Mary and a second by Gary. Any further comments? All right, all those in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
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 Is there any opposed tonight? Seeing none, the motion passes and our capital improvement plan is adopted. Thank you so much. And thank you to our directors for presenting their items. Also just making sure that our public knows that, as Mary held up, visual, this is what the CIP looks like. It's available for anyone to take a look at on our public website. I think you could even check out copies of the library if you wanted. So it's a great planning document that really looks into the future. So, all right. Moving on to a public hearing regarding our revenue sources and discuss setting 2021 property taxes for the coming year. And our finance director, Doug Valesky, is going to take this item for us. Doug.
All right, thank you. Just a couple things before we start here that I wanted to talk about. I forgot on on my committee update. You know, the last several weeks, or actually several months, I've talked to you guys about the refinancing of the state revolving loan for the wastewater treatment plant on going out for some rebonding to possibly save up to $600,000. We've been working with our bond counsel and also our finance advisor, and I'm going to be bringing forward next week the ordinance to move that forward. So I just wanted to give you a heads up on that. So if you have any questions on that or anything like that, just please let me know. So with that, I wanted to talk first of all about our budget calendar. Again, just reminding everybody today we are City Council. We are holding the public hearing on the 2021 revenue source, including consideration of possible increases in property tax revenues, which we aren't having. And then as far as the rest of the calendar goes, after tonight, we have November 4th next week to, you know, if you have any questions or if there's anything in particular you would like me to provide for or present, I think what I'll do is I'll show you just a few little things on adjustments we may have to make on the preliminary budget, and then just really spend the time opening up to any questions you guys may have on that, on the budget. Other than that, then we did on the copies of preliminary budget will be made available to the public on November 2nd. I wanted to point out that in your council drive under the budgets 2021, the document is out there for you to look at right now. If you have any questions or if you want me to send that link to you, make sure, or just let me know and I can do that. It's a 16-page summary, just kind of a pretty graphical for the public to look at what's in our 2021 preliminary budget. So that's in your drive, and then that will be posted out on our website for the public viewing next Monday, so November 2nd. And then on November 12th, we are planning on holding our public hearing on the 2021 budget and hopefully may adopt the budget and set the property tax rate at that point. And so that was the plan. Am I still on track with everything, or? All right. So moving on, this is a public hearing to review the revenue estimates for the 2021 budget and to discuss the council setting about those property rates I'll talk about at the end there. Again, this is for council. This is kind of a review of what I did earlier, but just wanted to show to the public what we're doing. As far as our revenue estimates go, we do take a lot of time in putting together all these revenue estimates. We have revenue policies that we have to follow. We have to make sure that our current revenues will be sufficient to support the current expenditures. We calculate using an objective analytical process and will be neither overly optimistic or overly conservative. And then our estimates will be performed utilizing acceptable analytical techniques and shall access the full spectrum of resources available to finance city programs and services. You know, there's a lot of different resources that we're using. We look at historical information and trends. There's a lot of state resources out there. MRSC, they have a revenue guide that they publish every year that kind of gives you a step-by-step things to look at and what to consider and what their recommendations are. Get a lot of input from management, especially in their areas, of what they foresee, what their revenue streams are going to be like. And then I also spend a lot of time talking to other cities and actually in the county too about what they're doing as far as some of their projections go. And so we utilize all of that. So we spend a lot of time on doing that. The other thing this year, obviously, you know, it's been extremely difficult to forecast revenues for next year just because of all the uncertainties of the economy coming in from with COVID, et cetera. And so right now, here's another resource that we look at. It's an economic and revenue update from the state. And right now, you know, they did come out with their projections in April, which were a little more, I should say, kind of negative, that things were going really down. There was a lot of things happening right there. And then they came out with this on September 16th, which is the last update that they had that really brought those projections, had given it a lot more optimistic outlook. So right now, you know, we know interest rates are projected to remain at current levels for at least the next few years. Washington was showing signs for further improvement in the economy. And like I said, the September forecast was much more better than what they projected in June. Employment continues to rise in June and July and August following the historical decline in March and April. Non-farm payroll really increased, like 82,000 more than expected. Construction is increasing a lot faster than what they anticipated too. So really, basically, we're looking at numbers that are pretty equal to what they were, the 2019 numbers at this point. But the first quarter of 2021 may still see some of those decreases. So anyway, that's what their outlook to look at right now. This is a good resource that you know, anybody can go out and look at, but I get a lot of information from there too. So looking at our total city estimates, we are first of all, I have comparisons here from our 2020 estimates, not the budget. I'm looking at the estimates of what we actually brought in. I think that kind of gives it a little better look at where we are. So right now, overall, our revenue estimates for the full city is $69,889,000. It's about a $938,000 decrease from what we have anticipating in 2021. The biggest area that is from intergovernmental services, and if you remember, that includes the $897,000 in GEMT revenue this year, also the $1.6 million for the coronavirus relief funds, the care funds is in there too. So when you're comparing that to this year's, there's a decrease there of $1.9 million. Taxes are going down about $23,000 overall. License and permits, we're looking at going up about 226 from the 2020 estimates. Charges for services about $200,000 up, and then transfers of about $452,000 increase. And the majority of that is that managerial fund that the city now has to budget for and report on our financial statements. And so that's where you see that big increase coming from in there. So again, overall, our citywide estimates of revenues about $69.89 million. And over here is just a chart. You can see where the majority of that's coming from charges and taxes. The majority of those charges obviously are coming from our utilities. Moving on, looking at taxes, citywide total taxes, we are looking at $27.2 million, very similar to what we're projecting on bringing in this year, about $23,000 below that. Looking at our property taxes and the preliminary budget, now I'm going to discuss something in the next slide here, but in our preliminary budget, I had estimated just under or just over $8 million. That's about a $265,000 increase. Sales tax is projected at $7.4 million. The estimate in there that we use is about a 5% decrease of our 2019 actuals that we received. Public safety tax, that's just a straight pass through. Criminal justice tax is pretty much staying the same. We know our EMS levy from the county is $1.5 million. TBD, we're estimating at going down about $200,000 from this year at 1.6. Hotel motel, if you remember last week when I gave an update on our hotel motel taxes, our revenues there are projected on going down. I did increase them a little bit in our budget for 2021. Utility and others pretty much staying pretty close to where we were there. And then Lyft is at 500 again, and REIT at 1.4 million, which is the same budget as we had this year, but about $100,000 less than what we're going to be collecting this year. So again, that total taxes for citywide is $27 million. And again, just the breakdown of all the different taxes we have here, you can see it here. Any questions on that? Okay, so looking at our levy for our 21 property tax, just a review from last year, the 2020, we did have an assessed value of just under $3.8 billion. We had new construction assessed value of about $59 million. So our property tax increased by $131,000 just for the new construction. We had bank capacity of $747,000, and our 2020 levy amount was just under that $8 million. So we had a levy rate that continued to decrease. So for this year, for 2020, it was $2.16. So we did get new numbers from the county from 2021. So I had estimated earlier in our preliminary budget a 4% increase, and we actually realized about a 5.7%, so brought our assessed value up to over $4 billion. So a little higher increase than what I had anticipated in the preliminary budget. And then we also had new construction assessed value of just almost $42 million, which created about $88,000 in new tax. I had estimated $100,000 for new construction. We're only going to collect 88, but then we also have a refund levy that for about almost $22,000. So we're actually over that $100,000 by about $10,000. So we're still extremely close to where we thought we would be there. Remembering that we are allowed the 1% increase or the implicit price deflator of one IPA. Basically, it's just the IPA. It did come in less than the 1%, so it's at 0.602% allowable, which would have been $52,645 if council chose to use that, but we did not include it in our budget. Bank capacity requested, that number for this year is $744,987. Again, we did not request any of that in the current budget. So our 2021 requested levy amount is going from just the 7.999 to 8.11, which is basically all it is the new construction sum of the refund levy, which drops our new levy rate under the $2. So it's $1 and well, it's basically $2. So no, it's under $2. That sounds better. So anyway, any questions on that?
Doug, I have two questions.
Yes.
The 0.6 0.02% allowable. Is that for everybody, or is it just specific to Mount Vernon?
No, it's for
Okay.
everybody.
Okay.
Yes.
And then can you explain a refund levy?
Oh gosh, I wish you wouldn't have asked that.
I'm
Okay. I did talk to the county about that just to make sure, because I knew it was going to come up. And so what happens is the assessor's office gets every year, they get notified by the county treasurer's office that there were that they didn't collect the full amount of taxes, property taxes for the previous year. So basically, there's RCW that says that the cities then they could since we requested it last year and we didn't get it, that we can just request it again this year and put it back in. So it's basically stuff that we didn't get last year due to like abatements or cancellations or something like that, something that the treasurer's office weren't able to collect. And so we've historically every year any kind of refund levy coming in, we just add that back in. So this year we had 2 of them and it amounted to $21,902. Does that help?
It does, and I appreciate the explanation.
All right, thank you. Any other questions before I move on?
Just one other question, Doug, is when we adopt this ordinance or set the levy rate and our collection levels, will we be looking at putting that 0.602% or the 52,645 into our bank capacity?
So what will go inside our bank capacity will be the 52,645. That'll get moved up to bank capacity.
Just like we've done every other year, but this is the first time I think I've ever seen it be under 1%.
Yeah, I went back actually and looked at the history, and yeah, there were a few, but it's been many years since it's been as long as I've been in the state. Yeah, it's always been that 1%. I take that back. I think in 2015 or 16 it was below 1, but you can also still request that 1, but you have to justify it, and then you can get the full 1%. So, all right.
No, we're not raising property taxes at all, so we'll just put that in the bank capacity, right?
So it'll sit there in bank capacity. That's correct. And then next year we can take the full bank capacity, right? Okay.
No.
Moving on. Again, just kind of looking at what that means. So if you look at the chart on the left here, you can see that our city population has been growing, and then our levy rate is actually the lowest it's been since, well, as far as I go back here, 2008. I know it goes back several years, even prior to that, below the $2. And it says values, you can see how much, and these are in millions here, that, now we're over that $4 billion mark. So as this orange line looks, you can see how our assessed value of city, assessed values are going way up. Our city population is also going up. And then here you can see at the yellow bars that the levy rate is going down. So, if people should see, as long as there says is values of their home staying the same, that they should see a decrease in that because our rates are going down. Okay. So as far as sales tax rate goes, for the sales tax rate in Mount Vernon is currently at 8.7%. You can see that just looking at the pie chart here, that the state takes the largest portion of that, or 6.5%, or 75% of the total of all the sales tax that's collected goes to the state. The city gets about 10% of it. So we're this little purple pie right here, it's about 10% of it, or 0.85% of that total 8.7. So unless things change, this is currently what the sales tax rate is. So just wanted to show that. If there's any questions on that, or just to remind people of what that sales tax rate means. So this chart, I apologize, I was not able to update from the revenues that we collected just today from the sales tax. But for our 2020 estimate, we're estimating at collecting about 7.2 million. That's actually going to be a little higher now. October was actually a little higher here. And then what I have estimated for the last 2 months are basically similar to what we were collecting at the beginning of the year. Some of those numbers around the $400,000 and $500,000 range. So looking at our, as far as the graph goes here, you know, our sales tax revenues have been increasing since 2011, and then 2020 now we're looking like there is going to be some decline there based off of, you know, obviously from COVID. Our 2021 revenues numbers aren't up here, but it's $7.4 million, which we were using just a 5% reduction of our 2019 actual revenues that were collected. So as you can see up here in this little box here, that just shows again what our annual collections were and what kind of increase it has been for each year or decrease. Okay. The next slide I have here is just a total for all of our governmental operating funds revenues. I'm not going to go into a lot of detail on here, but these are our governmental operating funds, which includes all the general fund, street funds, parks fund, and the library fund combined. And so it excludes all our special revenue and proprietary funds, et cetera. So again, here you'll see a lot of these numbers are the same, but overall, our 2021 estimated revenues are just under $35 million. 68% of that, it comes from taxes, from property sales, EMS, public safety and criminal justice and utility. The next one is our charges for services, and we have intergovernmental. And as you can see here, you know, the big changes, everything's staying pretty close to the same. The big change here is that intergovernmental, but again, that is because of projecting off of our 2020 estimate, which includes that $1.6 million of CARES money and also the EMS. So any questions on any of that? Okay, and then just looking at some of our other major revenues that we have is our building revenues, which includes all of our building permits, as well as our impact fees and engineering fees, plat app fees, zoning subdivision fees. Those kinds of items are included in that. As you can see here, that is the blue lines, and we've been steadily kind of staying pretty flat since 2015, looking at it going up. We did project a larger increase in 2021, but now we're seeing that number probably won't be coming in as high as we are, but that's moved, just all that does is move it into 2021 from 2020. So that's the blue line there, is looking at the building related. REIT, we talk about all the time. You can see that in 2017 was our highest amount of almost $1.8 million. And we're looking at this year coming in at 1.5, and then our budget for 2021 is 1.4 for our real estate excise taxes. Our fuel tax, that is from the state. It's based on the number of gallons that have been sold. Looking at pretty flat, both the fuel and the liquor comes from the state, and those are estimates that we get from the state to plug in here. So those are the amounts that the state is anticipating sending to us. So I like those. I don't have to project anything. I just plug in the numbers. So as you can see, that's what for those taxes, or excuse me, for those revenues stream there. Any questions on any of that? Or
is the liquor, does that include marijuana too?
No, it does not. That's a separate tax.
Okay.
I don't have that included on here, but it gets deposited in the general fund, and it's included in there.
Okay.
And Doug, could you remind me, because I thought that the state capped that at a certain dollar amount, so it's not really like it, you know, goes up when sales are better.
So there's kind of two parts to the marijuana tax. There's and I don't have it here right in front of me, but it's based on the overall sales, and then also from the overall sales in the state, and then the sales of what we have inside city limits. So ours vary. You're correct. It's the what we get from the state is one amount, and then what we get for the city is another portion on top of it, which is a fairly small amount, but they're combined together in our revenue stream. We're not seeing any increases in there coming up, and actually we didn't meet our budget for this year, and so that number actually dropped for 2021. I don't know if that answers your question, Gary, or not.
Great, thank you.
And with that, that's all I have. So
I think it's good to share, and Gary, thanks for bringing that up, because I think there may be a perception in the public that, you know, the state's making tons of money on marijuana sales, and to some degree the state is collecting, but they did have legislation that capped cities, so they're keeping a lion's share of it. So, okay. Any questions for Doug?
The only question I really have for Doug is we have no action to take this evening. What date are we, or what meeting are we looking at adopting the revenues?
So the last few years since I've been here, we've been always doing it at the last, so it would be on the 12th. We'll adopt the budget and approve the rates.
And that's when we'll set the property tax then also?
That's correct.
Okay.
As long as we stick to the schedule, so yeah. So that does complete our requirement to hold a public hearing regarding the revenue sources. And again, it is a public hearing, and in our published agenda, we outlined how the public could participate in the hearing, and we received no one wanting to participate. So if there's no other questions, we'll move on to our next agenda item. Okay, here we go. Item C tonight. This is a Mount Vernon Arts Commission member appointment. I'm personally excited about this one, but I will go ahead and let Jennifer Berner introduce the item for us.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. I too am very happy to make this announcement that we're going to ask Council to approve Linda Brookings to be appointed to the Arts Commission. Linda has decided to go ahead and retire after 30 years plus of service, but still wants to stay involved in her community and has a real love for the arts. And so we're super excited to have her involved in this. She's been very involved in the Arts Commission over the many years that she's been serving our community and as the recreation supervisor capacity. So to have her on board with this is just a really exciting thing for us. So we're bringing that before you this evening to see if you share in our excitement, which I'm sure you do, in appointing Linda to the Arts Commission.
Are there any questions from?
So I would move that Council ratify the mayor's appointment of Linda Brookings to the Arts Commission.
Second.
All right, motion by Mark and a second by Melissa. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 Aye. Are there any opposed? All right, thank you so much. I will get her sworn in as quickly as you can.
Could I just interrupt? Is Linda, I don't have my full screen on. Is she in the meeting or?
No.
No, she's not. Okay. I just wanted to take a moment to thank Linda for her years of service to the city. When I opened the packet and I saw this, it put a big smile on my face. Our children went to school together, and I think it's just absolutely great that she's continuing to serve our city.
Yes, it was one of those very heartbreaking decisions to have to basically lay off those positions. And so I was thrilled to run into Linda when I was in one of the parks, and we caught up, and she's just a lovely person. So thank you for saying that. Okay, thank you so much. Then we'll, I did take that, like we ratified that vote, right? Everyone voted, okay. Sorry about that. Moving on, thank you, Jennifer. Moving on to item D tonight. It's the approval of a collective bargaining agreement, and Erin Cater, our Human Resources Director, is here to present. Erin.
Hello, good evening. I'm here to talk about the non-commissioned police collective bargaining agreement. their contract expired last year, December 2019. And the city and the guild have come to an agreement to roll over the contract for 1 year. So it will set to expire December 31st, 2020 this year. There was no language change. We did agree to a 2.5% wage increase, which amounts to about $18,300. But we also agreed to a 20-hour furlough for the non-commissioned employees, which equates to $9,500 in savings. So it's a net cost of about $8,800. Any questions? It was a real simple contract, obviously, since it was a rollover.
Any questions for Aaron on this?
I guess my only question would be, this is for a contract for January 1st, 2020 through December 31st, 2020.
Right.
So they've been working for a year with basically a year without a contract. So I'm assuming there's retroactive pay that's involved in this.
It is retroactive to January 1st, yes.
Thank you. I would make a motion that council authorize the mayor to enter into the agreement with the non-commissioned police service guild.
Second.
Okay. Motion by Mark and a second by Richard. All those in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? All right, thank you.
Can I ask one follow-up question?
Of course, go ahead.
Do we have an agreement moving forward into the 2021 year?
Not yet. We haven't started negotiating that one. We thought we'd finish this one first, but it's on my schedule to get them started bargaining.
Thank you.
All right. Item E tonight is project acceptance. This is the Little Mountain Park Skills Center and parking lot, and Bill Bullock, our city engineer, is here to present this item. Go ahead, Bill.
Good evening, council. This is simply for the project acceptance of Little Mountain parking lot, which we completed fully at the beginning of August this year. And it's, I guess, been open for probably 3 months now. But we've been able to work through our final paperwork with the contractor, and we are ready to present this to council for final acceptance for the completion of the project. Any questions?
All right, any questions for Bill?
Well, seeing that the staff recommends approval, I guess I'd make a motion that council accept the work performed by P&P Excavating for the construction of Little Mountain Park Skills Center and parking lot.
Second.
Okay, motion by Richard and a second by Mary. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you so much. And a special thank you to Bill for stepping in and really helping out our park staff with his expertise on that project. Appreciate it. All right. Item F tonight is an approval of a professional services agreement for community action of Skagit County, and Peter Donovan will present. Peter.
Thank you, Mayor. Council, previously you determined that a portion of CARES funding that was made available through the Washington State Department of Commerce be designated for water utility bill assistance for customers within the city limits of Mount Vernon. And you also indicated we recognize that Community Action of Skagit County had a program that was set up that was a good fit for this, to administer this. So this agreement is $40,000, 36,000 grants, 4,000 for administrative expenses between the city of Mount Vernon and Community Action. And staff recommends approval of this professional services agreement with Community Action for water utility bill relief.
Any questions for Peter on this?
I move that we accept this proposal for professional services with Community Action for water assistance.
Second.
Okay, a motion by Mary. We'll give a second to Iris. All those in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
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 Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Thank you, Peter.
Mayor, can I just make a comment?
Sure.
Sorry, I was muted there. I wanted to just thank the mayor and Peter for thinking about this as a need in the community. That's great. And also wanted to just recognize Community Action and their staff for being able to provide this service kind of on a quick turnaround. There's a lot going on at Community Action right now with all of the COVID response and about a 40% increase in our budget and our workload at Community Action. So they've just been working really hard. I wanted to recognize the staff there at Community Action, helping the community as much as they have. And I'm sure, I know that you all join me in that. So thank you so much. And I appreciate the time.
Thank you.
All right, item G tonight is an approval of the professional services agreement with EDASC. And again, Peter Donovan.
Thanks, Mayor. Yeah, same type of agreement here, professional services agreement, same funding that's flowing through the city from the federal government to the state to the local government. And City Council has identified that they wanted to help out small businesses in our community with grants. So the Economic Development Alliance of Skagit County is going to administer this program for us, and this is the agreement for them to do that. It's $270,000 in grants and up to $30,000 in administrative expenses, and staff is recommending approval of this professional service agreement with EDASC for grants to Mount Vernon small businesses.
All right, any questions for Peter on this?
No, I've had an opportunity to kind of watch how EDASC has handled these grants for other municipalities along with what they've already done for Mount Vernon. I think they're doing a great job, and I would move the adoption of this professional service agreement with EDASC.
I'll second.
All right, thank you. A motion by Mark and a second by Melissa. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Thank you. These are good items to do. I love it. All right, item H tonight is an approval of an interlocal agreement with Skagit County, and Chris Phillips, our Development Services Director, is here. Chris.
Hi, thank you, Mayor. Good evening, council members. You're fortunate tonight to see the 7th anniversary of a biannual interlocal agreement that we have with Skagit County as it relates to digital imagery agreement renewal. I'm asking, or city staff is recommending the city council approve the interlocal agreement and authorize the mayor to enter into an agreement with Skagit County for digital imagery. This interlocal is a renewal from 2018, but again, as I mentioned, 2006 is when it actually started, our collaboration. And this provides technical imagery, pictometry, international services, statewide high resolution imagery, license services, and just a good collaborative environment between our department, GIS department, and the county's GIS department. This has already been factored into the 2021 budget that you will hopefully pass here in the next few weeks. And then it also will be included in that $8,235 into the draft budget in 2022. Oops, Mayor, you're muted.
Thank you. Just coughing. Didn't want to be on the mic. Thank you so much. Is there any questions for Chris on this? Great.
I'll make a motion that council approve the interlocal and allow the mayor to enter into the agreement with Skagit County.
Second.
All right, motion by Melissa and a second by Gary. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? Thank you so much. Motion carries. All right. Item I tonight is for the good of the order, just the COVID pandemic response and discussion. And I thought you may like a quick update from Peter on the grants that we actually just talked about. And so I think he can give an update on things that he knows so far on that program. So Peter?
Sure. Specifically, the small business grants, there have been about 37 applicants when I checked in with EDASC late yesterday afternoon. So there's been a good response, and what they describe as a good diversity of of groups, businesses, nonprofits, and others. So sounds like the word is out and things are going well. As Councilmember Beaton mentioned earlier in the meeting, the deadline is this Friday. So hopefully we'll see even a few more trickle in this week.
Okay. And then just a couple things from my office. Just informing council that staff are still completing a 56-hour furlough time. And so some folks are kind of combining in as the upcoming holidays come around. And so, as you know, as we get toward the end of the year, we do have a lot more staff that are wanting to take vacations. So just something that I have to keep in mind and factor in as we try and keep moving things along. So with that, there is another instant action plan I put, I'll send the email here shortly for you to review from Skagit County, reminding everyone that there is always updates on the Skagit County Public Health website if we're looking at specific information about the COVID crisis here in Skagit County. And we're also starting to talk to staff, and we'll put together some public information around, planning for the holidays, so with Thanksgiving and Christmas, and generally families want to gather in large groups, and we just want people to really think about how they want to do that and how they can maintain as much public health safety as they can as we come into the holiday season. So those are just some things that we'll provide with messaging. The last thing I was going to update you on is I've been working with a local graphic artist and Carrie here in my office, and sorry, is putting together that community information mailer that we had allocated with CARES funding. So I'll send out a draft copy because I'd like to make sure we have a council member contact, on that, so that folks realize how to get a hold of their elected officials. And so we plan to have that out by the first week in December. We figured delivering it around now with all the election mail and things like that, we just thought it maybe make more sense to have that go out a little bit later, not during Thanksgiving, but we're working on that project too, so that will happen. The intent of the mailer is to provide public health information, civic information, update our community on where we are with services, with library, parks department, some crime prevention information, things like that. And then on the back cover, we're going to focus on encouraging people to support small local businesses. Okay. That's all I have. Is there any questions from council around what we're doing around the pandemic? Okay, seeing none. We do not have an executive session called for this evening. So we have completed our agenda items. And so with that, we'll be adjourned at 7:42. Thank you very much.
Thanks, everybody. Good night.
Good night.
Good night.
Thank you.